Greetings, my friends. Please consider supporting me in my war to save pop culture by subscribing to my channel and possibly even becoming a channel member for exclusive videos, access to Doomcock emojis, and more. And if you like this video in particular, please consider using the new Super Thanks feature and putting a tip in the tip jar located next to the like buttons down at the bottom of the video. Thank you for watching, and now, on to the video. My friends, I have seen episode 5 of Kenobi, and to say it made me angry is a gross understatement. Though I stay perpetually angry, I am at heart a man of reason, and it is rare that I do anything as idiotic as yelling at the television screen. After all, what's to be gained by that? There's no one else around to hear you. Certainly the characters on the screen pay you no mind, and yet, despite all that, I could not help but yell at the damn screen at certain points during this episode. I simply couldn't help it. My anger that the bullshit I was seeing unfold on the screen overwhelmed my logic and self-control, and in this review, I will do my best to explain why. So at the start of this episode, as Vader closes in on Kenobi and Leia and the other rebel refugees, Vader commends the third sister for her excellent service, and Vader appoints her as the new Grand Inquisitor. Huzzah! Reva is now officially the bestest Inquisitor ever! So as I said, Vader tracks Obi-Wan to a rebel refugee outpost using the tracker hidden in little 10-year-old Leia's droid, Lola. Reva hid the tracker inside Lola, and not only that, she turned Lola evil at the same time. And when the Empire tracks Kenobi and Leia and the rest of the rebels to their hidden outpost, Lola the droid sabotages the control box inside the base, closing all the blast doors and trapping everyone inside. Of course, in Kenobi, there is dumb shit lurking beneath every plot point, and Lola the droid is no exception. No one notices when Reva plugs a tracker into the droid, whose eyes glow red to show everyone, hey, Lola's evil now. Lola's working for the Empire now. Beware, what Lola wants, Lola gets. But believe me, this is a minor bit of stupidity in an episode chock full of suck. So yeah, Vader and the gang, not as fun as Cool of the Gang, but hey, you work with what you got. Vader and the gang get down on it and arrive at Jabim, the hidden rebel refuge outpost, where Kenobi and Leia are hiding, and they place it under siege. Reva, feeling full of bestest ever-ness now that she's the Grand Inquisitor, leads a legion of stormtroopers down to the planet and demands that Kenobi surrender. At one point, Kenobi and Reva wind up having a conversation through the closed blast doors, and we learn what we knew all along, that Reva was really out for revenge against Vader, and she blames Obi-Wan too for not saving her and her little youngling pals. Yep, it turns out it was exactly as we knew all along. Reva was a youngling training as a Jedi when she saw Anakin slaughter her fellow younglings. She hates us as Vader, so of course she joins him and the dark side of the Force. Sure, that makes perfect sense. Let's join the murderer who destroyed your life, learn his dark ways, and then pretend to be evil so well that you actually become evil, all to get the jump on Vader at some vague point in the distant future. And by pretending to be evil, I mean actually being evil. Ain't no pretend about chopping a woman's hand off for nothing. Ain't no pretend about threatening Lars Owen. Ain't no pretend about executing Jedi, about abducting a kid, torturing a kid. I guess Reva is a method actor. She pretends to be evil by actually being evil. So are we supposed to sympathize with this hateful pig? Seriously? Screw her. I wish Vader had finished her off back then as well. And they don't explain why Vader didn't finish her off with the rest of the younglings. It just happens. But a lot of things just kind of happen on this show without any explanation whatsoever. So there's a lot of pew pew that ensues as mysteriously Kenobi remembers how to kinda sorta use the Force, and he deflects blaster fire as he cringes and winces, and as the doors get breached and the refugees flee to transport ships further inside the base. But then Kenobi gets such a brilliant idea. He surrenders to Reva and kneels before her, at which point he officially becomes Obi-Wan Kenobi. And so Kenobi tells Reva that he knows she wants revenge on Vader, so she should use Kenobi to get it. While Vader is distracted with Kenobi, Reva can strike Vader down. At this point, Kenobi's interaction with Vader just feels like a massive violation of canon. They just keep interacting and interacting, making a mockery of Vader's last lines in Star Wars. "I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. We meet again at last. The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master." Same thing with Leia. Leia didn't just have a one-and-done interaction with Kenobi, she had a whole prolonged adventure with Kenobi. So how come she doesn't mention it when she records Kenobi the message in the original Star Wars asking for his help? All these interactions are just chipping away at Star Wars lore one bit at a time, adding nonsensical layers of clumsy retrofitting on top of the foundation so brilliantly laid by George Lucas, leaving a ramshackle and unstable structure that by all rights should be condemned. But here we are with a bunch of awkward and sketchy fan fiction written by people who clearly don't give a shit. Lovely. And you wonder why I was yelling at the screen. So how stupid is Kenobi to go ahead and just surrender himself to Reva? How intelligent is it to give up to a woman hateful and crazy enough to chop off a woman's hands for laughs, to abduct and torture a 10-year-old girl? How brilliant to rely on Reva's good graces not to go into the base and massacre the rest of the refugees after Obi-Wan Kenobi surrenders to her. And what about Obi-Wan's obligation to Luke? What about his mission to keep Luke safe since Luke is the future? Nope, all of that is forgotten. All of that is tossed out the window. It is fucking ridiculous. Obi-Wan Kenobi, of course, gave up on his mission to save Luke a long time ago. As I said, these so-called writers, along with KK and Deborah Chow, would have us believe that Kenobi would be idle for 10 years, working as a butcher of desert whales, burying his lightsaber and abandoning the Force, abandoning his training, refusing to help another Jedi refugee in need who subsequently gets executed, abandoning his post to go off on a half-assed rescue mission, leaving Luke alone. There is no mission here. As part of her cultural vandalism of everything Star Wars, Kennedy would have us believe that Obi-Wan was a failure, just like Luke was a failure, just like Han was a failure, just like Admiral Akbar was trash to die off screen. The systematic destruction of icons in Star Wars by Kathleen Kennedy will be remembered by film historians as the greatest misfire of all times, the sacrifice of a great franchise on the altar of wokeness. Because if Kenobi hadn't abandoned Luke before, he sure as shit abandoned him now. Because surrendering to Reva is surrendering to Vader, and surrendering to Vader is suicide. Not only for him, but for Luke as well. Because under Vader's torture, mind probes, and force sensitivity, let's face it, Obi-Wan Kenobi would be giving up Luke eventually. Talk about abandonment of your mission. Talk about abject surrender. This scene had me yelling at the screen. Kenobi steps outside and surrenders to Reva, kneels before her, and in that moment, no one is looking after Luke. Luke is abandoned. Luke is surrendered. Kenobi is relying on the good graces of a proven psychopath and a Sith Lord, trusting it'll somehow all work out okay.
I guess he read the script and saw that it would all be okay in the end.
And so it is. Due to plot armor from Kathleen Kennedy and Deborah Chow, so Vader is all fixated on avenging himself on Obi-Wan, and Reva picks that moment to attack Vader. Big mistake. Vader kicks her ass without breathing hard, and since he always breathes hard, that gives you some idea of just how badly he whoops her ass. He chops her double lightsaber in two, picks up the pieces, and shoves them right up her ass. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Basically, Vader runs Reva through in one of the few feel-good moments of the series. So Reva is run through with the lightsaber, and in strolls the Grand Inquisitor that Reva had run through with her lightsaber, and he's still alive and perfectly fine. And after the Grand Inquisitor and Vader leave, who do we see crawling along the floor but Reva, who is also still alive after being run through with a lightsaber, at which point Kenobi officially becomes fucking absurd. It's just a joke now. The whole thing is a pointless joke, all of it. Reva is so incompetent that even running the Grand Inquisitor through with her lightsaber, the Grand Inquisitor survives, and Vader is so incompetent, he runs Reva through with a lightsaber, and Reva survives, and the whole thing just feels so idiotic and pointless. Lightsabers are shitty at killing anyone now. All throughout this episode, in fact, Kenobi whacks stormtroopers with his lightsaber, and instead of cutting them in half, the lightsaber just knocks them out of the way, like a club. Yes, that's right. Kenobi now uses a light club to whack people out of his way, like a Jedi caveman. So much for an elegant weapon of a more civilized age. Bam, bam! Kenobi smash! This is what has become of Star Wars. This, sadly, is what it has all come to. So the Grand Inquisitor gets impaled with a lightsaber and survives. Reva gets impaled by a lightsaber and survives. Reva was a dumb shit for not finishing off the Grand Inquisitor with her lightsaber. Vader is a dumb shit for not finishing off Reva with his lightsaber. Vader is also a dumb shit for letting Kenobi go after dragging him through fire, and fans are dumb shits for watching this nonsense. Next week we head to Tatooine and young Luke Skywalker, and if they're not extremely careful, canon will be smashed into little pieces for all time. Because if Vader knows that Luke is on Tatooine, everything is completely destroyed, everything is absurd, everything is pointless, and that's Disney Star Wars in a nutshell. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha